$1,600. That's how much I make every single year just for optimizing my finances. I'm going to show you how to do the same in less than 2 hours and increase your net worth by over $100,000 over the course of your lifetime. If that sounds good to you, I'm Nathaniel with the Fat Stacks Academy. Sit on your ass and let's get stacking. Okay, so the first step to optimizing your finances, in my opinion, is to think like your bank and ask yourself why they want you as a customer. There's really only two reasons in actuality. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their own heart. It's because they're actively making money from you. They can do this more traditionally through overt ways like overdraft fees and things like that. But even if you're responsible with your money, you never spend more than you make, you pay your bills on time. The banks are taking advantage of your ignorance and making a lot of money off of you in the background through two methods. The first one is they're collecting interest on your deposits. So you get your paycheck in, they're actually investing that money into treasuries and kind of low risk, very easy to get out of investments like treasury bonds, corporate bonds, things like that. And they're generally, at least in today's interest environment, making at least 5 to 7% APY on your money. Most bank accounts, they're only giving you about a 0.1%. That's why you might see like a penny or two enter your checking account every month because they say they're giving you interest, but really they're making a lot more money off of that. The other way they make money is by giving you a debit card to pay for a lot of your transactions. So your bank loves when you use your debit card because they get a slice of each purchase that you make. By getting you to use their card to pay for your stuff. Um, One way that they do this is with your debit card, and it's a little complicated in the background, but generally speaking, 1% of that transaction goes towards other institutions every time you use your card for groceries, electric, your utility bills, going to McDonald's, fast food, whatever you spend it on. Um, so some banks will compensate you for this, but most will not. I'm going to show you the most profitable way to change how you spend your money so that you're getting a slice of the action. So, with those two things in mind, here's how your bank wants you and incentivizes you to budget if you just kind of get your bank account and your debit card and you live your life and you just kind of do things as responsibly as you know how. Let's say someone spends $5,000 a month on their rent, their groceries, their dining out, gas, car insurance, utilities, and you do it the way the bank wants you to, which is via debit card primarily. Those $5,000 go towards your bills. You used your debit card, and the bank makes 1% off of that. So they make $50 on your $5,000 for doing absolutely nothing. You're literally just using your card. And more likely than not, you're not getting anything in your bank account for that. The other thing that happens, even a little bit more so in the background, is they're earning interest on that money before it leaves your account to those different places you spend money. So say you had 5,000 in your account, you're likely getting 0.01%, maybe one or two pennies per month, while they're making probably about $20 on average when you factor in the APY for it. So with both of those things together, with about $5,000 in bills for most people, the bank is making about $70 in the background off of your hard-earned money, and you're getting 1 or 2 cents for it through this traditional method. I think that's kind of BS personally. The banks aren't the ones dealing with problem customers. They're not doing crap you don't want to be doing. They're not working long hours while you're missing your kids' football games, and they're taking a slice of that action. They're not dealing with Clarices or Karens, making your life hard on a consistent basis. Um, and I just think that if you're working your tail off, it's worth spending a couple hours to change the direction that you make your payments and get money in that background way that we talked about. So let's flip the script. I call this the fat stacks method. The first step is to put as much money as you can, even the ones paying your bills, into a high yield bank account. There's dozens out there now that give you at least 5%. Some of them a bit less that are a little more user friendly. There's one that I use that's incredibly simple, easy to set up, and I get 5% back on. I'll leave a link in the description and talk a little bit more about it later in the video. The second thing you want to do is pay all of your bills with a credit card instead of a debit card. This part really only applies if you are responsible with your finances. If you regularly carried a balance and you're paying interest on it, I would get your habits in order before you do this. But if you're able to do this method responsibly, it is far more profitable, and you'll be putting a lot more money in your pocket every single month. Um, I like to pay my rent with a Bilt MasterCard because there are no transaction fees. It's my biggest expense, and it gets me 1% back. For all other transactions, you should be getting at least 2% at a bare minimum. So for all your groceries, dining out, everything, you can think of getting like a 2% discount or just 2% as a fat stack back in your pocket. So I'll show you in the spreadsheet later, using this method just as a baseline, not including any of my other savings, any of my other investments. I'm just making $1,600 a year off of that money that otherwise was going to the bank in the background. As I said at the beginning of the video, it literally takes probably just 1 to 2 hours to set up, and you never have to think about it again. You're just increasing how much money you're getting every year just by setting up auto payments, simplifying your finances, but setting up the payments to be more efficient and beneficial for you. So step one in this process, if you don't already, open a high yield bank account. That's a bank account that's going to be giving you a slice of that action of them investing even your short-term cash. For me, I use Wealthfront, but some other popular ones out there that you may have signed up for, you don't even remember, are Ally, Discover, Upgrade, Capital One. They have high yield accounts, not quite as high as I've seen with Wealthfront, but they're good. So you want to deposit your savings, your emergency fund, and most importantly, all the money you need to pay your bills. And that's how we're gonna make some secret money I haven't quite talked about yet into this account. As I talked about before, Wealthfront's the one I use. I'm currently getting 5.5% because I refer all my friends to use it. If you use my referral, you'll also get 0.5%. This one, if I wasn't already maxed out on referrals, would help me keep that 5.5 longer. But just for simplicity's sake in the math, I'm just going to assume eventually it's going to go back down to 5%. And that's a lot of extra money if you're not already doing something like that. So link in the description for Wealthfront. It'll take you 10 to 20 minutes to sign up for, deposit as much money as you can in that bank, and move your bills over to that bank, and you'll be earning interest on all that money that's just sitting in there. If you don't use this account or any of the other ones, an important thing to look for is to make sure it's not one of these fintech banks that aren't FDIC insured, because in the event of a bank default, you want the government's backing to get your money back. So we're not looking to increase our risk at all by making this extra money. It's just changing the order and doing so very safely. Step two is to get cash back on each transaction, not giving the bank that 1%, but finding the most lucrative way to get money back for everything you spend. For this video, I don't want to try to optimize it, get as much value as you could by getting every credit card under the sun that gives you better multipliers. There's a couple credit cards out there that get you a baseline 2% on everything, and that's what I try to do for my baseline setup. And for most people, if you don't want to be getting 10 credit cards to get better multipliers, I recommend at least getting a 2% card that you can put all of your normal daily expenses on, like your groceries, your dining out, and everything like that. And then I also recommend getting one more card just because it is so lucrative, the Bilt MasterCard, because there's no transaction fees to pay your rent with that card. They'll even mail your landlord a check, and you'll be making 1x back on your rent, which over the course of a year or years, you'll be making a lot more money than you otherwise would have by just getting nothing from that expense. Okay, so the card I use for my rent payments, as I've talked a little bit about earlier, is the Bilt MasterCard. I have it pictured here on the screen. And the really cool thing about this credit card, it's the only one on the market that gives you rewards for paying your rent. It's not quite as lucrative as a 2% card, but 1% on your biggest expense, which is your housing. If you're a renter, is absolutely fantastic. I've gotten so much value from this card. I have a link to it in the description, or you can Google it. If you do use my link, just know I will make a little bit of money from it. Um, for the 2% cashback cards that I recommend, one really kind of simple one is the Wells Fargo Active Cash. Just for all around practicality, I kind of recommend this one because it's a Visa card and you can use it everywhere. I know for myself, if I didn't have a 2% cashback card that's a Visa, I'd be missing out a lot at Costco because that's the only credit card issuer they accept. I'll link to both of these cards in the description. Okay, so this is kind of a secret way to make some more money. You know how the banks we talked about before are kind of in the background, just making interest on your deposits. They don't really tell you about it. And we're changing that by changing over to our high yield savings account. Um, the secret power of using credit cards is you can flip the script on that. So every time you purchase something with a credit card, you get a 30 to 60 day interest-free loan on each purchase because that money, when you buy your groceries, is not immediately leaving your bank account. It's getting paid by the bank and then you pay them off later. So during that 30 to 60 days, those purchases you're making are getting 5% at least in your high yield account. So essentially, you're literally just using the bank's money to make yourself some more money by just changing the way you pay everything. So I'm going to give you one quick example. You can kind of pause the screen, but just as how it works under the hood. Let's say you go to the Walmart, Target, you buy $300 worth of groceries on some random day, let's say November 11th. If you use your debit card or cash, that $300 immediately comes out of your checking account or your pocket in the case of cash and goes to Target or Walmart. When we use a credit card, that $300 leaves the credit card company's pockets, um, and it's just kind of floating there for 30 to 60 days. Since that money is still in your checking account for that 30 to 60 days, you're earning interest on it. So let's say on December 5th, you get a bill from your credit card company with a due date to pay on December 23rd. Um, what you want to do with your credit cards always, what I do is I set up auto pay to pay the full statement balance, so I'm never carrying a balance and actually paying any interest on the credit card. Um, but by purchasing your groceries on November 11th and then not having to pay for them until December 23rd, you're getting a 5% APY on that $300 for about 45 days. When you do the math, that comes out to just under $2 in interest. It doesn't sound that exciting, but when you add up all of your transactions you do every single year, it equates to hundreds or thousands of dollars in extra interest that you're making on the bank's money, not even your own. So you'll be making more money on your savings and things like that. But this is a way to kind of flip the script and make money off of the bank just in the background. So you get 185 on the interest. Something I don't have on screen here is when you're using your 2% cashback card, at least, you're also getting $6. So it's about $8 in this transaction that you otherwise wouldn't have been making if you didn't set up your finances this way. So if you're curious, on this screen, I'm showing you how the math actually works out with that interest calculation of that $300. Um, it just shows you how much interest you're earning off of each transaction because the 5% is annual percentage per year, but that $300 isn't every year. So for informational purposes, if you don't believe me, this is just the math. You can pause your screen and do the math for yourself. In just a little bit, I'm going to take you to a spreadsheet that I'm going to put a link in the description that does all of this math for you. You just put in your yearly or monthly expenses, and it'll tell you how much you'll make by using this method, and is actually a really cool way to just kind of show you how everything works. Um, So one thing I also want to talk about is a credit utilization warning. So if you're applying for a home loan or an auto loan or planning to soon, You want to be careful using this credit float because what can happen when you put all of your expenses on your credit card once you apply, if you don't have a very high limit yet, it can increase what's called your credit utilization, and that will lower your credit score temporarily until you're able to lower it after a statement cycle or two. If you don't have anything like that coming up, your score doesn't matter as much, but just know you want to keep your credit utilization between 10 and 30% if you want those high 700 plus credits. All right, so let's put everything we learned into a spreadsheet. I have mine here. This kind of is my budget, and I kind of itemized everything into monthly expenses that I put onto a credit card and use this method. So let's just take groceries for example. I have a family of three. I live in a high cost of living area. Our groceries are $1,100 a month. Um, Typically, I get at least 2 cents per point on my cashback card, and that's what I'm going to use for this example. Sometimes I get more, depending on if I'm getting a sign-up bonus on another card. That's a story for another day. So monthly, just using my cash back, I'm getting $22 on that 1100. Um, on interest, I'm getting $6.77 using those same calculations before. In this spreadsheet, I did all the math. So what you can do, I'll leave the link in the description. You can input all of your own expenses and see how much you would make every single month and every single year just by transferring your finances to this method. So back to groceries, that ends up coming out to $264 of cash back just by using a credit card and $81.18 of interest on just the credit limit that the credit card company gave me. It's not my own money, it's just interest that I'm funneling in the background by paying it as described in this video. So when you factor everything together, I also do my rent, which is my biggest expense. I don't get 2% cash back because they only give 1 for your rent. They don't make any money on that. It's just how they get you to get the card, and it can be extremely profitable if you use it the right way. You add all of my expenses, which I can put on a credit card, my groceries, my internet, utilities, health insurance, gas, all of that is in here in the monthly form and then the annual form. That gets me to all of the cash back every single month on everything from my rent and everything else is $95. That brings it to $1,200 annually. And then the interest I'm making just off of the bank's money, literally the credit card company's credit limit, is an extra $38 a month or $464 per year. So I'm making an extra $133.72 just by changing how I pay and save my daily expenses. This doesn't factor in the interest I'm earning on my emergency fund, my tax payments for my business. This is literally just my living expenses. And that comes out to $1,604.67 per year. I would get on this ASAP, change your finances. It'll literally take you 1 to 2 hours to sign up for 1 or 2 credit cards, a bank account, set up auto pay, and be making this money in the background that the bank is actively taking from you. I'll also link this spreadsheet in the description so you can put in all of your expenses and it'll automatically give you your totals for the year here. Score 740 plus. All right, so just to recap, the FATS tax method to increase your take-home pay by 1,000 plus a year. Open and use your high yield bank account. I use Wealthfront. There's a link in the description, but you can find more just by Googling. Just make sure they're FDIC insured. Open and use at least a 2% cashback card for your daily spend and the Built MasterCard, which is the only one I know of that lets you pay for your rent with no fees and no transaction fee on the payment as well. Make sure you set up and pay your full balance on your credit card every single month. This is the most important step. If you don't do this, you're falling into the credit card company's trap, and any returns you had are going to be wiped out by their much higher percentage on the credit card. So don't spend more than you actually have. Pay off your bills every month, and you'll be sitting pretty. Um, I'm going to show you one other thing that is very lucrative, and that is to open and fund your investment account with the rewards. This channel is all about building your wealth, building your fat stacks, and the best way to do that is to invest as much of your income and how much money you make as possible so that you have financial freedom going forward. Um, yeah. Okay, so I'm making an extra $133 a month. For me, that's not where the excitement ends. I like to see how much could I make on that money if instead of just spending it on fast food or whatever, I just itemized it and invested it. So let's go over to the compound interest calculator. Actually, I already have it pulled up here. So $133.72 I'm making just for changing how I pay for stuff and save my money. I'm 32 now. I'll reach retirement age at 65. So let's say I'm doing that every single month. Nothing changes, even though likely it will go up as life gets more expensive. Um, I'll do that for 33 years. Um, the best investing, in my opinion, is to just buy low cost index funds, whether it's a lifetime retirement account, or the S&P 500. Um, and historically, you're going to get around 10% per year if it's compounded over 10, 20, 30 years. That's what it is historically done. Um, so let's plug all that in. I already did. So in 33 years, that adds an extra $354,000 in change to my retirement. This channel is all about how you grow your wealth. If you don't invest already, I highly recommend opening an IRA and taking the savings that you would normally just spend on other things and putting it into your retirement, and give yourself as much freedom as possible. All right, guys, that's it for this video. If you found it valuable, it would mean the world to me if you liked the video, you subscribe to the channel. I hope to be putting a lot more content like this out in the future. Pretty soon, I'm going to link it right over here. I'm going to do a full review of the Built MasterCard. The link for the card is already in the description, but if you want to learn about all the other benefits for it, how I use it more specifically, I'm going to be doing a full review over here. And today we learned how to make over $1,000 just by moving our money around. Another cool thing about this game when you're trying to optimize financial products through banks is banks and credit cards. They want your business and they're willing to pay handsomely in sign-up bonuses. Takes a little more work. This video is just something I like to think of that you do in the background. But if you're looking for a little bit of a side hustle, click this video over here. I'm going to show you how to make $2,000 in about 2 hours, and we'll have a lot of fun. Anyway, thanks again for watching the video. Remember to like and subscribe, comment, and we'll see you guys in the next one.